大家好，欢迎收看LAILINBAR，我是赖老师。我今天坐在我旁边的呢，一看就知道我们今天有一个大来宾来了。那这位呢是我们克莱赛的老板。Welcome to Taiwan, and it's the first time to Taiwan.
It is. It's my first time to Taiwan, and I'm very excited to be here. So far, it's my second day, and it's been a wonderful
It's
visit.
Second day?
Second day, yeah. So it's been a wonderful visit so far.
那我们今天呢，会简单的访问，有一些简单的问题，又趁机会问一下我们的安德鲁，然后也让大家更容易的认识我们克莱赛这间酒厂。第一个问题就是，我们知道克莱赛的那个酒厂，它是位于苏格兰的很大的一个商业化的城市，首都是在爱丁堡啦，不过其实它最大城市是在一个叫格拉斯哥的城市。那里面有一个叫做 Clydeside， 就是它的一个很重要的港口。那它的酒厂呢，就位于在格拉斯哥的这个港口之中，所以会跟我们印象中苏格兰传统酒厂会盖在山林间，或者是在河畔旁边，会有一点不一样。那所以就很好奇，说为什么当初他们会选择盖这个酒厂在这边？那对于他们的家族来说，是不是有特别的含义呢？
So there's quite an interesting background to how we ended up in Glasgow. So initially, when we decided we wanted to build a distillery, we did look at one site in particular near St Andrews, and we came very close to building a distillery there. Even we did water testing. We drilled into the soils to test that there was going to be enough water. But what we realized was the land was owned by a third party, and we would have been on a long-term rental of the land. And eventually communication broke down, and we decided not to build the distillery there. And so we gathered as a team again and thought, if we're going to do this, the first priority is we need to own the land so that we have complete control over everything for a long time. And then we thought about our family history, and we're a Glasgow family. And there had not been a distillery built in Glasgow for over 100 years in the city centre. And we also felt that with the way tourism and whiskey was developing, there would be a very unique story to tell and attract a whole new audience to whiskey. And so we started looking for suitable sites in Glasgow, and we found this site on the River Clyde. You know, what was lovely about it is actually we secured the site, and it wasn't until we actually really got deep into the process that we discovered that my great-great-grandfather had actually built the Queen's Dock, and so there was a huge family connection with the site that we didn't even realize existed until we started the project. So it was a lovely coincidence to have that. And you know, we opened in 2017, and I think our gut feeling was right that there was an audience for tourism and whiskey, because obviously we were really badly affected by the COVID for those 2 years. But what we're seeing, last year we got close to 100,000 visitors in the distillery. So it's wonderful that we can share what we're doing in Glasgow with so many visitors. Yeah.
Oh. I mean, this very romantic choice.
Yeah.
我在去年的时候，其实我就有机会去克莱赛的酒厂去参访过，然后我特地就只能选一间酒厂，我就选了这间酒厂。哦，为什么？因为其实我之前在喝就是这一支酒的时候，其实我对它的印象就非常的深刻，所以我就非常的好奇。这间酒厂大概是什么样的？因为我们知道它是2017年才创立，所以其实这支酒非常的年轻。那所以我就会很好奇说，那这支酒或者是说这个酒厂的未来，所以就会想要询问一下安德鲁说，那对于这个酒厂的未来有什么样的规划，或者是说有什么样的一个产品，或者是说对它产品走向的风格会是怎么样？
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed your visit to the distillery so much. I remember it well. Delighted you enjoyed the spirit, because it's something that we're very proud of, because Alistair MacDonald, our distillery manager, who was previously with Morrison, Hawkintosh and Glengarry, he wanted to follow the family back to where it all started for him. And when I met with Alistair, we talked about, you know, how do we create the best spirit possible. Because one of the advantages of being a family-owned distillery is, you know, our production volumes and all these kind of things. We determine that quality is the absolute priority of everything we do. And so I said to Alistair, in your opinion, what are the key components to making the best possible spirit? And he always told me a clear wort was very important. A long fermentation time, so we do an average of 72 hours fermentation, and then he runs the stills very slowly, so about 5 liters a minute. They did about 3 weeks of trials, you know, for cut points to find out where we wanted the spirit, and we wanted a traditional kind of lowland spirit. So my opinion is it's a very approachable whiskey, a very clean whiskey, fruity kind of tropical notes, grassy, citrus. What's been interesting is Stalkcross as a spirit has been developing. So our first release was, you know, 3.5 years old. Gradually, as we've been on this journey, it continues to get older as well. Most recent production we did is now over 5.5 years. And next year will be over 6 years in the spirit. So the spirit has really had an evolution as well. We don't have an age statement on the bottle yet, but I think what we'll do next year is, rather than having a big age statement on the back, it will say matured for over 6 years, just so people know that it's not 3, it's not 4. It's been on this journey to get to over 6 years. And so it's been really nice to see how much people have enjoyed the spirit, even though it's relatively young. And I think Alistair, our distillery manager, and the team did a great job. You know, we invest very heavily in our wood as well. We make sure that we have really, really good first fill bourbon barrels, and that's a big component of this. And then, so yeah, I'm delighted to hear that you enjoyed the spirit. What's nice for us moving forward is, you know, it seems like yesterday that we started distillation. I mean, whiskey's moving very fast as far as my time at the distillery. And so, you know, last year we introduced our limited edition, which was a cask strength release. And this summer we're quite excited because we're going to be releasing our sherry edition. And that's going to be a core product with Stalkcross. Both next year will be over 6 years. So we're going to have 2, you know, stand side-by-side products, one predominantly bourbon maturation, one sherry maturation. And then as we move forward, we're in no rush. You know, I think one of the dangers being a new distillery is people are eager to do lots of different expressions. I think we really want people to understand what our spirit is. It's a very drinkable whiskey, and really get people to understand our character and not get distracted with lots of different additions. We're excited to have 2 core products in the market by this summer. And the sherry, I'm very excited about it. It tastes really, really nice.
Yeah, that's right. So this is my first time drinking Clydeside whiskey. Is this one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Cheers.
Oh. Wow, it's very fruity. Yeah. Like a strawberry. Oh. Yeah. So it's very young.
Yeah, relatively young.
Yeah, but it's fruity and
oily. Yeah. The mouthfeel.
Yeah. It's good. So you use the first bourbon.
First fill bourbon.
First bourbon.
And it has roughly 10% sherry. So just a touch. When we first were putting this together, we thought maybe we'd do a higher percentage of sherry, maybe 80-20. But what we realized is the sherry was taking away from that freshness, like you say, that oily mouth feel. I always think it's I guess kind of fresh cut grass, some citrusy aromas there, and we really think, and this is one of the reasons the limited edition was a bourbon, because we think it's the bourbon wood really showcases the characteristics of our spirit And so that's why we also held off on the sherry release until it was over 6 years. It would have been easy to release it 4 or 5 years, but we felt those extra couple of years in the sherry warranted waiting. But yeah, it's been, everyone that comes to the distillery is so pleasantly surprised by how approachable and how drinkable this is for a relatively young spirit.
就是这个味道让我一喝我就决定要去这个酒厂一探究竟。其实它的这支第一酒款，我觉得就已经奠定了克拉萨的基本的一个 DNA， 或者他们一个最原始的一个风味，或者说它已经可以告诉你这间酒厂的未来不简单。刚刚我们安德鲁有跟我们介绍说，他们之后的产品也是有很多多元化，所以之后他们不管是年份酒，或者是说像什么雪莉桶啊什么的，基本上他们都会把他们的品质维持好，然后推出更多丰富有趣的产品，会介绍给各位的观众。好，那因为我去年有进到他们的酒厂，那其实那时候我进去的时候，我很确定的是，他们就只有一对蒸馏器。而且基本上应该是，如果就那个蒸馏器空间，应该是没有太多扩充蒸馏器的一个可能性。在这个时间点啊，很多都已经在扩充他们产能了，所以就很好奇说，克莱萨这样子的一个新兴酒厂，你看它是在2017年建造开始生产嘛，在这么近的一个年份，可是它竟然也只有设计一对的蒸馏器，所以当初是有怎样子一个考量说，为什么会只用一对蒸馏器？
So when we were trying to get planning permission, we approached the city of Glasgow to make sure they support a city centre distillery, because obviously there's challenges to building a distillery in a city centre. You know, Glasgow's quite a populated city. So before we wanted to get too excited about what our thoughts were going to be, we approached the city to make sure they would support us rather than stand in our way. And they said they loved the idea of a distillery coming to Glasgow. They were very supportive, but they were concerned about the scale. And so 2 conditions were put on the table. One was production shouldn't really be over a million litres. And secondly, there would be no warehousing allowed on site. Small, very small. There was a terrible warehouse fire in Glasgow historically, where tragically some firefighters lost their lives, and I think warehousing in the city was not a good idea. It was something planning were never going to support, and that was fine with us. But they were also concerned about the scale. Once we knew that, we decided how much liquid did we need, and from the start we knew that our liquid was only ever going to be used for us. It was never going to be used in a blend. It was never going to be sold to third parties in big scale. We can produce, last year we produced about 550,000 litres. This year we'll probably get close to 600,000 potentially. And actually building a new brand takes time. And if we were ever to use all of that liquid for our own product, there's a lot of cases of single malt. We believe that while in comparison to other distilleries that are doing 3, 6, 8, 10 million litres, 500 to 600,000 doesn't sound a lot, but actually when it's all allocated to one brand as a single malt, that would support, you know, probably case sales wise, a top 10 brand in the market. And I can only hope one day that we can reach that level. I would love to be in a position wishing we had distilled more, because it means we have a hugely successful brand. So yeah, that was really the principle behind the scale of what we were doing. Yeah, I think I would not be able to sleep at night if I focused on profit, especially over the past, you know, when we started this project, we spent a lot of time on the business model, and for the first couple of years we were hitting our numbers, everything was going to plan, and then we shut for the visitor centre, it was closed for 2 years during the pandemic. Thankfully we were still able to keep production going. But then, so I always thought that would be my biggest challenge in business, the pandemic. Actually, it's been the years following the pandemic that have been far more challenging. We couldn't get shipping containers. You know, as we were excited to release our first product, we couldn't get shipping containers. And so our product launch was completely scattered because some product would be in America, some would be in Japan, some would be 6 months later in China. So our product launch was completely ruined by shipping containers, and they were expensive. The following year, the Ukraine war, and then our barley price doubled. And then last year, interest rates, inflation, and this year the price of wood for first fill bourbon barrels has skyrocketed. So thankfully, our family have been in this industry long enough to know that it's a very bumpy road, and we're lucky because single malt and whiskey has been on an incredible rise for the past 10 years, but there'll still be bumps. And so you have to be patient. You have to understand that you're distilling now for where you want to be in 15 years. And that is a very scary prospect because you'll never get that equation right. You'll never match supply now for where demand will be. We'll either have too much whiskey or we won't have enough in 15 years. But we are producing for where we think we want to be in 15 years. Thankfully, the tourist side of the business is something that is a bit more stable, and that we're growing year on year. And it's really been encouraging to see that the Clydeside is becoming a destination in Glasgow that people want to come and visit, and not necessarily people that are whiskey enthusiasts. We hopefully can turn them into whiskey enthusiasts, but so many distilleries are remote throughout Scotland and quite hard to get to. I'm sure you've experienced that it takes real passion to go and visit them. But because we're in the city centre and it's 5 minutes from a hotel in Glasgow, we are seeing a lot of tourists that might otherwise not visit a distillery. And so that's very encouraging for us. But yeah, the planning side is you need to be very patient and understanding. Yeah.
不过他刚刚讲没错，因为我那一次去的时候，真的那个游客是很多的，而且是各国人，然后有的可能就只是去格拉斯哥玩，那知道有这个很近的酒厂，方便去。
And hopefully they spread the word when they go home. Yeah.
对，easy come, easy go, easy drink. Okay, last question.
Sure.
好，哇，刚刚真的聊得很多。那其实我们也知道，这位老板真的对威士忌很有热忱，纵使前面遇到那么多不可预期的事情，但是他还是坚持他想要做的事情，然后把它做好。那这是他第一次来到台湾，按照他对台湾的人，或者是说对台湾这块市场的一些想法。
Well, I'm delighted to finally get to come and visit Taiwan. It's been a market I've been looking forward to visiting for a long time. The hospitality I've received has been incredible. The welcome, everyone's been extremely friendly, extremely knowledgeable. And in regards to, this is only I arrived on Sunday night, so this is only my second day. But I've been thoroughly impressed by clearly the passion for whiskey that I've seen, and going into the retail shops and some of the cigar bars and restaurants, I've noticed something really interesting, which is that clearly the big brands have a big presence in market, and they're doing a lot to promote within market, but clearly there's a very deep knowledge of single malt as well, where yes, the big brands are there, but you're seeing lots of independent bottlers. You're seeing lots of collectible bottles. You're seeing lots of things that people have obviously worked really hard to try and source. And for someone that's as passionate as I am about whiskey, that's great to see that obviously marketing spend is important, and I see it's evident in market. But clearly, the consumers are very educated as well, and are taking the time to find their own passions, to find the spirits that they like, and it's not necessarily all the big brands. And so for me, it's very encouraging to see that and to see the level of knowledge that the consumer have in market.
哇，那真的很棒！今天可以让我们节目可以访问到我们安德鲁，那可以询问这些问题。好 ，Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I should say it also gives me hope. And is encouraging for brands like us that don't have a big advertising promotion, that if we keep making good whiskey, the consumers will appreciate that, and hopefully we can build without the big advertising budgets, which we don't have. So I'm very excited to see where this brand can go in market as we go further along this journey.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
好，谢谢，拜拜。
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
应该把它关掉。